Welcome to virtual Japan as we are here today for round number 6.
Oh, Pearson gets into the 95 of Folks. Here comes the caution.
Flag is dropped here at Daytona, and away we go for the first time. Nicholas Morcel, Sean.
Looks like most get through unscathed. Look at that, there's Reed Gibson. A big move at the inside line of Dom's, possibly a little bit of contact.
Up now as we've got three wide action going through turns 1 and 2.
And they're underway. Eric Hahn takes a nice jump. Wilson hasn't let him go very far.
Go out here for Circuit Spa Francorchamps. Alex Johnson's off to a brilliant start there.
See just how oddly shaped this one is. We saw in the background Eric Hahn go for a bit of a swing, and he's gone and he's over.
New stuff. Cody Graham's the one-on-one up into second place. Alex Johnson 6/10 lead at the moment.
They're dicey up front. There's Andrew Kessel, Justin Sang.
They are ready to go. The lights are out, and away we go for the very first time here at Okayama International Circuit. Finley Fitzsimmons.
Good evening, race fans, and welcome back to the YesterYear Racing Cup Series here at the Old Bastards Racing League. We're at Charlotte Motor Speedway, where we've got 180 laps on the board. As always, I'm your host, James Eastbury, the Action 1080p, 60 frames a second, and looking forward to calling things here at the OBRL. Now, it's not the Coke 600 tonight. It's going to be the OBRL YesterYear Racing. What do we call this? The Diet Coke 270, maybe? As there's going to be 270 miles on the board for these drivers. So one of the only longer formats of the racing season. Right now, single car qualifying is underway. There's Josh Robinson, the number 23 machine. We've had 16 drivers put down a qualifying lap so far here tonight. And it looks to be about 23, 24 drivers making their way out for today's feature event. As always, let us know where you're from, who you're cheering on. Drivers will frequently have this broadcast pulled up in a separate monitor or device, and if they don't, they just about always go back and watch this thing over again. Now, last week, May 19th, we were off for one of the few drop weeks of the season. And I'm looking to see if Dan Hill is out on track. Yes, he is, the number 7 currently qualified P5. He's looking to get his first back-to-back win here at the OBRL. He picked up the win back on May 12th at Darlington. That was his first win of the season. But Josh Robinson, your points leader, wants to get back up top. Let's see what Robinson does as he crosses the line. He had a 30.1, and he's going to climb way up the leaderboard to the top with a 29.71 to take back over that pole position. So Robinson bringing the heat here at Charlotte on the Memorial Day weekend. That's going to wrap up our qualifying session. And now we get ready to grid them up, put them out on track, and see how tonight is going to unfold here. On pole, Josh Robinson, the number 23. TJ Rogers starting second. Lloyd Moore starting third. Greg McDaniel starts fourth. Chris Bates starting fifth. Dan Hill starting sixth. Wayne Hufford starting 7th. Eddie Jones making his way out of retirement. Good to have Eddie Cajun Jones back out on track. He's going to be starting 8th. Michael Titanium Everhart starting 9th. Michael Watt starting 10th. Brian Lindsay starting 11th. We've got Jerry Isaac starting 12th. Cycling on back. Robert Garisco starting 13th. William Martin starting 14th. Dustin Martinson starting 15th. Larry Corey starting 16th. Brian Lynch starts 17th. Bruce Pearson starting 18th. Tom Amassi starting 19th. Ken Huff starting 20th. Sean Foltz starts 21st. Andy Thomas starting 22nd. Bob Fellenbaum starts 23rd. And our very own Victor Lane will round out the 24-car grid here today. And again, huge tip of the hat to Eddie Cajun Jones. Had heart surgery earlier this year. Extremely pumped to see the number 14 machine back out on track here at the OBRL. Waiting for that iRacing safety car to roll away, and there we go. A beautiful shot of our grid here today. Oh, we've got Everhart sleeping at the wheel there in the 71. So we've got 180 laps on the board, 270 miles for these drivers ahead of them. And in typical OBRL fashion, we're looking forward to some good, clean green flag stops here tonight, some long fuel runs, and a whole lot of excitement. Coming into tonight, Josh Robinson, the number 23 on pole, had a commanding 34-point lead on his teammate, Tom Ogle. Ogle not able to make it out here tonight, Memorial Day weekend. Too busy celebrating his newfound A-Class license on this sim. So well done to Ogle, finally getting out of the B-Class license here on iRacing. There we go, safety cars down pit road. And we are green flag racing here at the YesterYear Racing OBRL Cup Series. And Robinson's going to lead the field there nice and tight through 1 and 2. TJ Rogers ripping the high line. You can see Greg McDaniel, Lloyd Moore, Chris Spates all in the fray here. Now, drivers will have about 10 to 15 laps before the tires start to fall off here a little bit. So I think what's going to happen is drivers are going to try and jockey into their positions and then maybe try and set up for some fuel runs here at Charlotte. I believe we're going to be looking at about a 2-stop race here tonight. So expect fuel windows to open up around lap 60. Close around lap 70 for these drivers. We've got Pac-Man CT join us in the spectator area, cheering on the VLS drivers. Gary Isaacs, Eddie Jones side by side for 8th. Isaacs down low. Looks like that's going to be Dan Hill's number 7 machine right ahead. And then other than this battle for around 7th, where Eddie Jones has climbed up a little bit on that high line, most of the field seems to be content running single file. You can see Isaacs and Hill still side by side. Jones working a little bit different line. He's got Hill on the inside there. Jones way up top in the number 14 machine, but seems to be content running his line. Hinting at some 3-wide action, you've got Everhart, Garisco, Lindsay here. And now it's going to be Everhart and Garisco going side by side for 11th. Oh, a little bit of contact there between the two of them. That's Garisco on the high side. It looks like the 94 of William Martin's going to try and follow here. As Everhart bleeding off a little bit of pace, falling a little bit further back. That's going to allow Brian Lindsay, the number 24 machine. He's up on the high side, trying to get some momentum going on here. Now, I'm surprised to see this much too wide early on. Watts and Garisco side by side for 10th. Garisco trying the high side. Watts down low. Looks like Watts going to let him by, then tuck in behind. Now up front, it's still Robinson and Rogers first and second. Nothing's changed there since qualifying. But we do know Robinson's going to be burning a little bit more fuel than those behind him since he does not have the draft support in the number 23 machine. Now, looks like Foltz picks up a spot against Everhart. Larry Corey in 17th just clicked off the fastest lap of the race with a 29.93. Corey's still down one spot from where he started, but the massive draft train you can tuck in behind the other competitors here at Charlotte really lends itself to some fast times if you take a lap, kind of hanging back a little bit, and then absolutely hammer it the next lap. As we just saw Brian Lindsay, the number 24, set his fastest of the race, the fastest of the race, with a 29.91. Oh, Lindsay almost given a shot there to, I think that was Michael Watts. William Martin takes over the 11th place position. Watts is going to fire back on the inside there. It's the 84 of Watts, the 94 of William Martin. And it looks like guys are staying pretty racy back here from right outside the top 10. Watts still sitting in 11th. I saw a big blink there. I think that was from, I don't think that was from Everhart. I wonder if that was Brian Lynch, the number 9 machine we just saw have a big blink. I'm not quite positive on that one. Lindsay and Foltz side by side for 13th. Foltz, if he can make this pass stick in his number 95 Ford Mustang, that will be his 8th spot gain so far here tonight, and would make him the hard charger as well, current hard charger. Looks like Brian Lindsay, though, is going to fight back on the inside, excuse me, the outside, the number 24. Everhart tucked in right behind. I'm surprised here at how racy things have been throughout the field. I very much thought this was going to be a cat and mouse game of drivers linking up with the drafting partner, taking it easy, and not pushing too hard. But we've seen moves pretty much all across the field, and the top 5 hasn't changed much here. It's Robinson, Rogers, first and second, McDaniel, Moore, and Bates rounding out the top 5. Barney, our flagman, watches on from the start-finish line here at Charlotte. There's TJ Rogers in second, the number 72 machine, staying glued to the back bumper of Josh Robinson. These two have about a 4/10 advantage over Greg McDaniel, who sits in third. Rogers just set his fastest lap of the race with a 30.02. Wanting to keep the pressure on Robinson here. Let's go a little bit further back in the field. Sean Foltz and William Martin are going to go side by side as Brian Lindsay watches on from behind. You're on board with Brian Lindsay in that number 24 Chevrolet. You've got Foltz on the left side of the screen, Martin up on the right side. Oh, here we go. A big run from Brian Lindsay. And there's also Michael Everhart, Titanium, trying to interject himself into the party. Lindsay showing up to 13th here, but can he hold it? As Martin is going to have the inside line. Looks like Lindsay's going to get through here, taking back over the 13th place spot. Martin remains under fire, this time from Everhart. Let's go a little bit further up ahead. We've got a pretty big shootout here for 6. You've got Jones and Hufford side by side. There's Jerry Isaac sitting in 8th in the number 51 Chevrolet. Jones, we haven't seen him out on track in quite a while. Good to see him already up inside the top 10 here tonight. Isaacs working the inside line against Hubbard. And it looks like I just saw Dan Hill. Yes, he's working the inside line against Jerry Isaacs. There's Robert Garisco watching this battle unfold. So just inside the top 10. And outside, I would say, looks to be where all the action is as the field's starting to calm down a little bit, getting into single file formation. Let's see, does Robert Garisco keep the momentum up here now against Jerry Isaacs? Because Garisco is about to have company. He's got Watts, Foltz, Lindsay running 11th through 13th right in tow here. I see Dan Hill hopping out of line. He's going to take a pass at Wayne Hufford, 75, heading into turn 3. I've got to say, these cars look absolutely spectacular here at Charlotte tonight. Hufford and Hill still side by side across the start-finish line. Hufford showed ahead by 0.03 of a second, but here comes Hill into turn 1. Hufford has a little bit more momentum out of turn 2 down the backstretch, carrying a little bit wider line. Hill has to slow down a little bit more, run the inside line. Jerry Isaacs trying to figure out where he's going to go in that number 51 machine as they are still side by side ahead of Isaacs, pushing a big hole in the air. Hill staying committed to the inside line. Hufford run that mid to high groove. Isaacs hopping between the two, trying to see what's going to have the best run here. Isaac still nowhere to go as Hill and Hufford remain door to door here around the banks at Charlotte Motor Speedway. And that is stacking things up a little bit behind them. You can see, looks to be about 7th through 13th, all in a pretty tidy pack here. Then they've got about a second and a quarter over 14th through about 18th that are in their own little pack. Now, for those that have lost the lead pack, things are definitely not over for them, as this is going to be a long race, 180 laps historically. I'd say about 30, 40 minutes longer than they've been running most of the season. So there's still ample opportunity to catch back up and have a chance by the time it's all said and done here. As Hufford seems like he's going to be able to hold on to the 7th place spot. Hill tucks in behind him. But again, that has allowed Isaacs, Garisco, Foltz, Watts, and Lindsay to stay right here with them. Hill making that pass nice and clean against Hufford. Now we're going to see, does Hufford fire back in the 75? Or is he going to be too busy defending from Jerry Isaacs at number 51? Now, while this battle's been going on, Eddie Jones had worked his way through this up into 6th place spot, and he was able to gain a second over the battle behind him. There's Eddie Jones. He's trying to catch the draft off of Chris Bates, the number 81 machine. You can see Dan Hill lagging about a second behind here down the backstretch. Robert Garisco looking for an alternative line here against Sean Foltz. Michael Watts right behind. There's Brian Lindsay, number 24 in the background. He's trying to catch up to the draft here of this second big pack. Ooh, easy there. Fulton Isaacs narrowly avoiding contact in the battle for ninth. And Robert Garisco is going to work the inside line now through turns 3 and 4. Lap time's definitely starting to fall off a little bit. Your race leader, Josh Robinson, his fastest lap of the race was a 30-second flat. Last time by Robinson with a 30.78, so tires definitely starting to fall off. And for these drivers that are remaining very, very racy, it's going to be tougher to make those big sends up the inside, but we're going to go 2 wide and 2 rows deep here. In the battle for ninth, Isaacs, the number 51 machine, leads this little pack here, with Fultz and Watt side by side right behind Robert Garisco, the number 28, looking for an opening, but not quite able to find it. And just ahead of these guys, there's Dan Hill and Eddie Jones going side by side. Wayne Hufford, he's got a front row seat. Not even halfway to the first fuel window. And drivers showing who's did a little bit more tire saving than the guys ahead of them here at Charlotte. Hufford and Jones going to go side by side. Jones getting relegated back to the 8th place spot as Hufford charges up the inside. I think Hufford might be able to get clear here through turns 3 and 4. Yep, Hufford taking over that 7th place spot from Jones. Now, I'm impressed as well. Nothing has changed in the top 5 in the last 31 laps or so. It's still Robinson, Rogers, McDaniel, 1, 2, 3. Moore and Bates rounding out the top 5. But just outside the top 10 seems to be where a lot of the action is. We've got something going on here. I saw a lot of back and forth with Huff and Martinson. And I also see that's Andy Thomas. Oh, almost into the back corner panel of Martinson. Everybody able to hold on to it so far here. One of the best parts about racing and calling the action here at the OBRL is to watch the strategy when it comes to pit stops. So hopefully we'll be able to see that tonight here at Charlotte. The YesterYear Racing 270 here at the OBRL. Looks like Garisco might have had a little bit of a moment because he's got Sean Fultz in very hot pursuit. Something's going on with Ken Huff, that number 46 Chevrolet's connection as well. I've seen Huff kind of blinking around the track here. Hopefully that calms down a little bit. Very tough to make any passes when you're not sure what your connection's going to do. Even tougher for the drivers trying to maybe race you, not knowing where that race car is going to reappear at. William Martin, Bob Fellenbaum side by side. Fellenbaum taking over the 15th place spot. That will be the 38's 8th position gain so far here tonight. And I'm starting to see some movers up here in the top 4. Looks like Lloyd Moore is tucked in behind Chris Bates, less than 2 tenths separating those two drivers. Now the top three has a pretty substantial breakaway. Robinson is about 4 seconds up over this battle for fourth, and everybody inside the top three separated by over a second here. But if we get the green flag racing we've come to expect, I would imagine lap traffic will be a factor by the time tonight's festivities are said and done. 4-car battle for ninth. Isaacs, Jones, Garisco, and Foltz. Jones on the inside line. Isaacs up top. The blue and yellow, number 51, right behind them. That's Garisco and Foltz, who are hinting at some side-by-side. Isaacs and Jones still side-by-side. Jones, the number 14, on the inside line. Oh, we're hinting at 3 wide. Very briefly, Garisco, Jones, and Foltz were in a 3 wide situation. Looks like everybody got through that one, no worries. As I think Moore's starting to fall off a little bit with the tire wear, piloting that number 26 machine. He's going to lose a spot to Dan Hill, who propels the number 7 machine up into 5th. When we go back to this 3-car battle for ninth, this is where the excitement seems to be here at Charlotte. Isaacs just inside the top 10, running ninth. He's got Garisco, Jones, and Foltz right behind. Now, it looks like Bob Fellenbaum and Brian Lindsay, 13th and 14th, starting to close the gap up here as well. A reminder to the fans, we're expecting the fuel window to open up around lap 60. I'm going to be curious to see, is anybody trying something different here tonight as far as strategy? Garisco and Isaac's going to go side by side. Looks like Jones and Foltz will do the same just behind them. That spells good news for Fellenbaum and Lindsay, using that draft to propel themselves forward. Now, we got a report that Ken Huff, I think, did drop connections. It showed him on pit road to lap 34 taking a tow. And now he's going to get back out on track, but unfortunately he'll be about 7 laps down, so Huff is going to have to hope for some cautions here to get back on the lead lap and salvage an evening. Isaac's trying to get clear up into that 9th place position. Jones on the inside line, not making it easy, right behind him. No, excuse me, that's Garisco. And Isaac's going side by side. Garisco on the inside line. Jones is up on the high side, tucked in behind Isaac's. And then I see Bob Fellenbaum and Sean Foltz. They were able to get up here, towing Brian Lindsay. And Brian Lynch not too far out of camera frame there as well. This is the racecraft we've come to expect here at the OBRL. This is interesting. Larry Corey, the number 90 machine, he's down pit road for a pretty substantial undercut here. Isaacs and Garisco still battling for 9th. But now Eddie Jones running that high side, carrying good pace. The number 14 machine has gotten around Garisco, sets his eyes forward on Jerry Isaacs. Jones hasn't been on track in a while, but he has always been a phenomenal tire saver here at the OBRL. And long runs are definitely where Jones tends to shine. Now up ahead of them, it looks like Bates and Hufford also having their own battle. Bates trying to hold on to a top 5 here. Hufford is looking for his second position gained of the night. Things still staying relatively static in the top 4 at this point. Hufford takes a peek to the inside line on the backstretch. Wasn't quite able to get the run he was looking for. And still that heated battle for 9th continues. 2 wide, 2 rows deep. And again, that has allowed Brian Lindsay and Brian Lynch to catch up here. And that was Bob Fellenbaum making an aggressive pass against Eddie Jones. Fellenbaum, far and away our hard charger so far here tonight. He is up 14 positions, that 38 Chevrolet. I'm going to try and get some stats pulled up because I can't recall the last time I've seen Fellenbaum charge that aggressively through a field. And for some reason, I don't show Bob on the standings here. Let me do a little bit of homework up here in the booth. Well, I'm not sure why, but I can't find Bob anywhere on our broadcast notes of previous finishes. I'm fairly certain I've seen him out on track here before. Interesting. Can't find Fellenbaum on any of my previous race notes here. The Sunday night yesteryear series, but Fellenbaum rocking and rolling that 38 again. He's up 14 spots so far and has quickly put about an 8/10 gap over Jones. So Fellenbaum had obviously been saving a fair amount of tires early on in here in the run and is now putting them to work. Going back to Jerry Isaacs, number 51, qualified 12th, still 12th out on track. He's got Foltz, Lynch, and Lindsay behind. Ahead of them, Jones and Garisco have been able to hammer down a little bit. They've put about a second advantage over Isaacs. I'm wondering if we're starting to see the drivers who used up a little bit too much tire early on. Now, the pit road report, Larry Corey was in his stall for a minute and 40 seconds, so he had some sort of issues there. Ken Huff's going to come back down pit road in that number 46 machine. And now you've got Lloyd Moore trying to fend off Michael Watts in the battle for 7th. So we're thinking the fuel window is going to officially open in about 6 laps or so, make it 5 as Robinson crosses the start-finish line. We're expecting the fuel window to open around lap 60, close around lap 70. Robinson last time by 1.6 seconds off his fastest lap of the race, so the tire wear definitely a factor as you see things stacking up a little bit for TJ Rogers. He's got Greg McDaniel, Dan Hill, and I think I spotted Ken Huff there in the 46. So Huff is going to have, by far and away, much fresher tires as there's the battle for second. Greg McDaniel taking over the second place spot. Here comes Dan Hill, going to try and make something happen as well, following along McDaniel's number 1 machine. And I was mistaken. That's Larry Corey coming out of his lap 43 pit stop with his fresh tires, following second through fourth place. So we're starting to see things swap up a little bit here inside the top 5. Josh Robinson, your race leader, 2 seconds up over the rest of the field here. Robinson's got clean air and clean track for that number 23 Ford Mustang. And I'm very excited to see some green flag pit stops here tonight. Hill has worked his way around McDaniel, putting that number 7 machine up into second. I just saw Michael Watts slowing way down. He's going to come down pit road. One of our first drivers inside the top 10 for a green flag pit stop. Let's see, how long does Robinson stretch it out here for? So far, Watts the only driver to come down pit road on this lap. Looks like Robinson stays out for another one. And that will put us 1/3 of the way through today's feature event. Robinson holding a very comfortable 1.5 second gap over Hill. TJ Rogers, number 72 machine, he's going to come down pit road. Well, looks like Robert Garisco, Eddie Jones, Jerry Isaacs also coming down pit road. So things are getting a little bit busier on pit road. Andy Thomas, Tom Massey, Bruce Pearson, William Martin, Greg McDaniel coming down pit road. Now Robinson is staying out, but it looked like Dan Hill was closing the gap here a little bit in that number 7 machine. There's Dan Hill, the right side of your screen, closing to race leader Robinson. Larry Corey's getting an A lap back here. Robinson staying out, but Dan Hill is closing mighty quickly in that number 7 machine. And we might have a battle for the lead here. No, Robinson's going to take the opportunity to come down pit road. Hard on the brakes. Dan Hill is going to get credit for a lap led here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. That leaves Hill, Moore, Lynch in the top 3 who have yet to pit. Victor Lane, who's running 6, is going to come down pit road. Let's see if Michael Everhart opts to stay out. Yes, he is, the number 17 machine. There's Dan Hill taking his 4 tires. Lloyd Moore, Brian Lynch, and Everhart The only 3 drivers who have yet to pit here. Lynch comes down pit road. Let's see what Moore and Everhart are going to do. Moore stays out for a little while longer here. We've got a bunch of different strategies at play here, and that currently shows just Moore and Everhart on the lead lap. But right now, the rest of the field holding their breath until this pit cycle is complete. Nobody wants to get trapped a lap down here. We're all watching with bated breath to see when Lloyd Moore, the 26, there he goes. He's down pit road. And Moore will be the last driver to take his pit stop, stretching it out to the very end of the fuel window. Where's that going to put him in comparison to Josh Robinson? Because for the first time in a long time, Robinson's got some drivers behind him, close. You can see Greg McDaniel and TJ Rogers in the fray. Robinson has a little bit of lap traffic ahead of him here. I think that might be William Martin's number 94. Martin had some sort of issue on pit road. He was in and out of his stall in 18.22 seconds. Historically, it's right around 15 seconds we see drivers spending time in their pit stalls for. And Martin's going to fight with everything he's got here to stay on the lead lap. And that might bunch things up a little bit. You've got the top 3 right behind. Robinson, McDaniel, and Rogers aren't going to give each other much quarter here. On board with TJ Rogers running in third. You can see McDaniels, the Cartoon Network, back number 1 right ahead. You can't even see Robinson with the way these drivers are running nose to tail here. Rogers has a big run, opts to square up to the back of McDaniel, not hopping out of line, trying to maximize that draft. And each one of your top 3 drivers, as we watch Rogers going to take a peek to the inside line against McDaniel. Every one of these top 3 drivers is on a different pit strategy. Robinson came in a lap 63, Rogers lap 60, McDaniel lap 61. Michael Watson, number 84 machine, came down pit road for the undercut. He is up 4 positions, running 6th. Hard Charger out on track shows as Sean Foltz, the number 95 machine. He is up 12 spots. Everybody took 4 tires on that last pit stop. Now, question to the fans out there. Do you think we're going to run green start to finish here tonight at Charlotte? Or are you expecting a caution at some point to interrupt the party? We're going to get a poll going over here on YouTube. Up front, looks like Rogers putting the pressure on Mr. Josh Robinson. William Martin was not able to hold on to the lead lap here, but the top three staying fairly bunched up. And we've got the poll open on YouTube. Let us know, do you think we're going to go green all the way? That's what the fans are showing so far. Or do you think there's going to be a caution at least some point here tonight? Robinson continues to lead the charge. He's definitely got the majority of the laps led here tonight at Charlotte. But that's a lot of lap traffic on the horizon. Looks like that may be, I think that's Everhart, who's already a lap down the number 17 machine. But nonetheless, Robinson's going to be running into lap traffic. Hopefully not quite literally here, as he leads Rogers and McDaniel second and third across the start-finish line. Not quite halfway yet, and we've only got 18 drivers on the lead lap. But Robinson still ripping number 23 machine. If we go back to Sean Foltz, our hard charge, the 95 machine, he's got Eddie Jones, Robert Garisco, Jerry Isaacs right there behind him. At one point, nose to tail rise, we pan the camera angle over. Looks like our votes are split 50-50 right now if we're going to run this thing green or not. And Huff's back down pit road. Must be having some sort of issues there. The number 46. Unfortunately tonight, not going well for Mr. Huff. Handing back up to TJ Rogers. Losing a little bit of ground here to Robinson. Your race leader is about to catch traffic. McDaniel right behind Rogers now. This can go one of two ways for Mr. Robinson, your race leader. Now, Robinson's trying to navigate traffic as quickly as he can. He does have the advantage of being able to use the draft off those drivers in front of him. Looks like he's able to get through relatively well so far, but that has allowed Rogers and McDaniel to close the gap just ever so slightly. Oh, what's going to happen here? Rogers and McDaniel closing the gap. Nobody wants to use up tires too early here. Now, we're not expecting another green flag pit stop to around lap 120 or so if drivers stay on form. This is going to be interesting. Rogers still has company from McDaniel. McDaniel looks hungry to try and take back over that second place spot. There's two distinct battles going out on track right now. You've got the battle for second as McDaniel and Rogers go side by side across the start-finish line. McDaniel running the inside line. Rogers running a little bit more high as they are about a half second back from Josh Robinson. And then if you go back to 8th, you've got Moore, Foltz, Jones, Garisco, and Isaacs. And a nice tidy bunch running 8th through 12th. Moore getting a little bit of a breakaway there. Jones still has company from Garisco and Isaacs in hot pursuit. Things have calmed down a little bit in the top 3. Robinson a half second up over McDaniel. McDaniel about 4/10 up over Robinson. As Dan Hill and Wayne Hufford running 4th and 5th, kind of in no man's land out here. Oh, here we go. A 3-car battle for 10th. Garisco, Isaacs, Jones. Isaacs on the inside line against Jones. Garisco looked like he was about to be forced into a 3-wide situation there, but puts the hammer down and holds on to the 10th place position. Panning back up to race leader Josh Robinson. He'll be taking the cross green and white flags this time by, signaling the halfway mark of today's main event. Robinson holding a comfortable 9/10 of a second advantage over McDaniel as we have officially reached the halfway mark. Still lap traffic ahead for Robinson. 16 drivers remain on the lead lap. All 24 drivers, though, still out on track, rocking and rolling here. Robinson trying to use that draft off of Everhart ahead of him there. The field getting a little bit more spread out here as the run progresses. Robinson's built up a 1.5 second advantage over second place Greg McDaniel. Two closest drivers we have out on track are going to be Robert Garisco in 10th, continuously getting pressure from Jerry Isaacs in that number 51. Now these two are about 9/10 back from hard charger Sean Foltz. That number 95, he's up 12 spots sitting in 9th. Isaacs has a big run, trying to close up to Garisco. Now, both Garisco and Isaacs both came down pit road on lap 60 together. So they're on the same fuel and tire strategy. And speaking of strategy, Eddie Jones is doing something different. The number 14 machine down pit road here. So Jones trying something different on strategy, I would assume. Going back up to Greg McDaniel, you can see Jerry Isaacs about 4/10 behind. We're going to keep an eye out and see how quickly Jones is in and out of his pit stall for one of the first drivers coming down pit road for a second stop. What's going on? Jones might have retired the number 14 machine. We're going to try and get word on that, but right now it looks like the number 14 machine has put it back behind the virtual wall here. So we got a report that Jones, who is recently recovering, one of his first races back, opted to put it back behind the virtual wall, saying, hey, that's about all I've got for tonight. So glad everything's going relatively all right there with Mr. Eddie Jones. Super great guy. Good to have him back out on track. A little bit of a bummer to see him having to retire the 14 machine early, but ending it on a high note with his return. So tip of the hat there to our friend Eddie Jones, knowing when to call it a little bit early and avoid pushing himself a little bit too much. Robinson leading the charge up front, the number 98 machine. Greg McDaniel sitting in second. He's got TJ Rogers about 6/10 off the back of him. Looks like Dan Hill starting to get some momentum as well in that number 7 machine. He's hinting around that 1 second back mark. Another battle we see is Chris Bates and Michael Watts having a shootout for 6th. Watts closing the gap. Bates is down 1 spot from where he had originally qualified. Mr. Watts, he's up 3 positions. And Watts is going to try and make it his 4th here, working that inside line against Bates. Looks like Watts makes it stick there. I think Bates lifted a little bit to help facilitate that pass, maybe knowing Watts had the momentum. Now, Watts is also on 4-lap older tires than Bates, so impressive to see the number 84 machine still pushing that hard at this point in the run. Unfortunately, Watts and Bates kind of in no man's land here. Not counting lap traffic, they're about 2 seconds back from the top 5. That's being held by Wayne Hufford, the number 75, who is coincidentally our fastest Canadian out on track here today. Rogers has caught back up to the back of Greg McDaniel. We're expecting the fuel window to open back up in around 15 laps for these drivers. And then we'll see our second round of green flag stops. 23 of our 24 entries out on track here. And with a little bit of luck on our side, we went 103 laps caution free. Looks like a battle is shaping up with Robert Garisco, Bob Fellenbaum for 10th. Fellenbaum has 2 lap fresher tires underneath that 38 Chevrolet. Oh, looking at the inside line of Garisco. Garisco trying to keep it off the wall there. And Fellenbaum is going to make it his 13th place gained. He is now up as our hard charger, sitting in just inside the top 10. Greg McDaniel sitting in second with Dan Hill right behind. Looks like TJ Rogers has rejoined the fray here. No, excuse me. Hill has made that pass against Rogers, edging Rogers in the 72 outside of a podium contention. Tonight so far looks like Hill. Granted, he does have 4-lap newer tires than Rogers, but seems like he's got the long run dialed in, that number 7. As he's starting to close the gap now to Greg McDaniel, who sits in second. Robson's going to be tough to touch. Robson running about 5 seconds up over the rest of the field at this point. And no sign of slowing down. Let's see, here comes Dan Hill putting the pressure on Greg McDaniel, the battle for second. Oh, somebody was fishtailing a little bit there. Was that Rogers? I think it was, getting a little bit loose out of turn 2. Dustin Martinson, the number 19 machine, trying to get some laps back here as Rogers is going to lose hold of the top 3 here. He's definitely fighting the car, fighting the tires. Speaking of fighting, Dan Hill keeping the pressure up on Greg McDaniel. Your race leader Robinson running about 2/10 faster than anybody else out on track at this point, continuing to gain even more of an advantage up front. Hill able to hold on to it here from McDaniel after making that pass for second. McDaniel trying to keep the hammer down here, the number 1, but Hill just seems like he's got the long run dialed in. Now things are getting a little bit exciting here. Hill and McDaniel still having the battle for second. Ken Huff trying to unlap himself in the 46. Hill trying to clear and break away from McDaniel. Wants to break the draft of that number 1 machine and keep focusing forward. But during this time, Josh Robinson, your race leader, has extended that gap to 6.2 seconds up over the rest of the field. And right now, your second and third place driver, the two closest that you have out on track here, is going to be Hill and McDaniel. And while this has been going on, looks like Wayne Hufford starting to close the gap to TJ Rogers. Rogers is tucked in behind there. Martinson, the number 19 machine, showing a lap down from the race leaders. But I wonder if that's caused a little bit of a checkup here for the fourth place driver of Rogers, or maybe Hufford has been able to keep the tires underneath them and starting to close the distance a little bit here. Hufford making that pass for P4. He's going to be about 3 seconds back from McDaniel. And now it looks like Michael Watts is starting to close the gap as well to TJ Rogers. So Rogers might be really starting to struggle with the tire wear. If drivers want to make this a two-stop race, they really need to make it to lap 120 to make it till the end here. Rogers is going to see the right on the wall, knowing the tire wear is becoming a little bit much. He's going to be our first driver down pit road for a second stop here. How long is Robinson going to stay out for? Michael Watts, he's down pit road, as well as Brian Lindsay. Now, barring any cautions, these should be our final stops of the night here. Your current top five is Robinson, Hill, McDaniel. Your top three, Hufford and Bates, rounding out the top five. Robinson using a little bit of lap traffic to pull that 23 forward. Greg McDaniel running in third. He's going to come down pit road. Now, with these pit stops starting, this is where things can get the most exciting out on track. You'll have drivers of mixed talent and tire plans all out on track here together. And until the tires start to really scuff in and fall off, it can get a little bit exciting. It looks like Everhart's going to go down another lap here. How long is Robinson going to stretch that run out? He did 63 laps on his opening stint here at Charlotte. Hufford, Bates, Fellenbaum, all coming down pit road. As well as Lynch, Amasi. Hufford is in his stall. Now, if Robinson stays true to strategy, he should be coming down pit road around lap 126 here, but we've got an off-track reported. It was Brian Lynch, the number 9 machine, and it's going to bring out a caution as somebody else piles it up. It's going to be Wayne Hufford tied in that one. The caution is out, 2 drivers involved. And that will be the first caution of the night. Let's see what happened to Brian Lynch. Let's back that up. Did he spin off of pit road, I wonder? It looks like he did. Drivers were talking about how bumpy it is. And that's exactly what it was. You saw the rear wheels bounce. And then Hufford, I think, did the exact same thing. The both Lynch and Hufford crash leaving pit road. And now we're going to have a bunch of drivers coming down pit road under caution, showing 6 drivers on the lead lap here. There's Robinson and Hill coming down pit road, as well as Lloyd Moore. I'd imagine everybody's going to come down pit road here. There's Sean Foltz, Robert Garisco, Jerry Isaacs. But now what this means, ladies and gentlemen, is that everybody's going to be good to go on fuel till the end here. But let's see how this shakes down with drivers getting wave arounds. Looks like it's going to be 12 drivers on the lead lap here. Robinson and Hill will be on the front row. Moore and Foltz here second row. Garisco and Isaacs will make up the third row. As there's going to be a fleet of drivers getting a wave around here at Charlotte. So let's see how this goes, ladies and gentlemen. The first caution of the night. And cautions tend to breed cautions. Green flag is out, the first restart of the night. Will Josh Robinson be able to keep the field at bay? Or is he going to have company because Dan Hill was looking hungry on that last charge? There's Sean Foltz, number 95. He's up 18 spots so far here tonight. Side by side, Foltz and Moore for third. 95 of Foltz working the outside line. Moore looking down to the inside. Robinson still out front with Hill in hot pursuit. Right about a 10th off the back of your race leader, the number 23 machine. Moore and Foltz still side by side here in the battle for third. Moore qualified for third, wants to be able to hold on to it here. But Foltz doing everything he can to get up in the mix. Sitting back into 8th, TJ Rogers with the fastest lap of the race at 29.75, putting those fresh tires to use here. Now, the last time we had more than that 26 machine up on the podium was way back March 31st at Richmond. So Moore looking to make it happen once more here. But you've got Sean Foltz, Robert Garisco in tow here as well. The top 5 nice and bunched up. Robinson still out front. Hill in hot pursuit. Looks like Moore, though, has the hammer down. He doesn't want to settle for third. He wants to go for a season best with a second place. We've got 50 laps left to go in this feature event. Everybody should be good to go on fuel here. It's going to be tire management's the name of the game if this thing goes green. And that's going to be a big if after that one caution, getting everybody bunched back up. And there we go. Everybody's still nice and tight here. I'm starting to see Jerry Isaacs, TJ Rogers, Greg McDaniel. There's Victor Lane. He's a lap down there, the number 10 machine, but things are starting to definitely bunch up here. I think Robinson's in his favorite spot he can be in. He's up front. He's got clean air, no worries in keeping that battle behind him. As I saw drivers scattering behind, I think that was Lane hopping out of the way. Robinson still out front, going a little bit further back. Let's see if that's Jerry Isaacs. Yes, it is. And TJ Rogers. There is also Everhart in tow as well, trying to squeeze his way around. The number 72 of Rogers linked up behind Isaacs. I can also see Greg McDaniel, the number 1 machine, right behind. Oh, and things are really bunching up here. This is where things can get a little bit out of sorts. Isaacs and Rogers linked up nose to tail. Looks like that's going to be Robert Garisco right ahead of them there, trying to make their way around. Isaacs way up high here, trying to get a run against Garisco. No, excuse me, that's Rogers getting a big run. The 72 side by side with Garisco here in the battle for 5th. Now up front, things are getting a little bit tighter, a little bit more exciting. Robinson, your race leader, has Dan Hill 2/10 off the back. I see Lloyd Moore trying to give a little bit of a bump there to Hill, keeping that momentum forward. Still a fair amount of laps left to go, over 40 laps left to go in this main event. So surely drivers are still thinking about tire management. Foltz, Rogers side by side here for fourth. Here we go. Rogers and Foltz still staying side by side. Lloyd Moore just ahead as well. Moore has company as Rogers trying to work the outside line. Looks like McDaniel took a peek behind that 72. Hill doing a great job keeping Robinson within striking distance as well. There's a bit of a checkup on the inside line. Foltz had to throw out the anchor there to avoid getting in the back of Moore. Moore trying to hold on to the third place spot, but he's under fire from both Rogers and Foltz. McDaniel and Garisco seeing it shake itself out here up ahead. So let's see how this is going to shake down. I'm surprised at how just racy they are in the top 5. I'm very worrisome that some of these drivers aren't thinking about tire management or just going. Dan Hill still sitting in second. He's fallen back here a little bit from Josh Robinson. That is allowing Lloyd Moore closing the gap behind the number 26 machine. Moore looking for the inside line against Hill, not able to find an opening. Now we know Hill in the opening 2/3 of the race was extremely good at the tire management underneath him. Is that going to be the same here as he tries to keep Moore at bay, or did Hill burn up a little bit too much tire early on? Robert Garisco, he's moving up into 6th. He's gotten around TJ Rogers to 72, getting bumped back to 7th. Robinson has gained 3/10 up front here. And it looks like Robinson getting a little bit of a breakaway there. Moore has fallen back. He's about 2/10 off the back of Dan Hill. Now he's also fighting with dirty air off the number 7 of Dan Hill as well. and that can cause the car to be a little bit tighter, a little bit tougher to navigate. As the field's starting to spread out a little bit, Hill has another big run here. It's getting ready to be about 30 laps left to go. And I think we're about to see that the short run has kind of worn itself off here a little bit. As things are getting a little bit more spread out in the top 5. Looks like it's about a 4-car breakaway. Robinson, Hill, Moore, and Foltz able to get a little bit of ground built up. As McDaniel still holds on to 5th in that number 1 machine. Here goes Moore. He's going to take a look to the inside line against Hill into turns 1 and 2. Side by side we go for 2nd. Robinson up front, loves to see that in the rear view. Knowing the drivers are behind him, we're going to use up a little bit more tire battling each other. Hill has a little bit better run down the backstretch. Moore tucks in behind the number 7 once more. And now Sean Foltz trying to capitalize on the number 95. Foltz up 17 spots here so far tonight. Foltz's highest finish this season was a 6th, May 5th at Kansas Speedway. So he's trying with everything he can to get that first podium of the season for him here. But that's going to be a big ask. There's a lot of talent right ahead of that number 95 machine. Robinson, Hill, and Moore. No strangers here at the YesterYear Racing Cup Series at the OBRL. With good finishes all underneath all of their belts. Looks like 12 drivers still on the lead lap here. And not a bad night. 22 of 24 entries still out on track. So the drivers have come out in force. Now something has happened to Greg McDaniel. He just lost 2 spots there for Robert Garisco and Jerry Isaacs. Let's see what happened to McDaniel, if he had a bit of a bobble there. Yes, he did. Hard up against the wall coming out of turn 4. And that will push McDaniel back down into 7th. Here's your top 4, separated by less than a second between all of them. Hill's doing a great job keeping Robinson in striking distance as well. Historically, Robinson's been able to break away from the field. But Hill is definitely keeping him honest here. I'm curious to see if Foltz, that 95 Ford Mustang, can get his first podium of the season. Round and round we go. 270 miles were on the board here tonight. And we are getting closer and closer to the tail end of this thing. Here we go. That's Robinson, Hill, Moore, nose to tail. They've broken away by about 3, almost 4/10 of a second over Foltz. As we get ready to cross the start-finish line here at Charlotte, we're going to make it 25 laps left to go for today's feature event. You've got Robinson, Hill, and Moore separated by less than 3/10 between these top three drivers. Moore has a big run there off to the back bumper of Dan Hill. Bolt's trying to stay in the draft here, but he might have used up a little bit too much tire. Man, these guys are running so incredibly close. I would not have predicted that we would have seen anybody sticking with Josh Robinson after the dominant performance the 23 was putting on in the opening two-thirds of today's feature event. And there's still great racing all across the track. Bob Fellenbaum has just made a pass against Michael Watts. Now he's trying to make one against Chris Bates as well. And for those astute viewers, you'll remember earlier, Fellenbaum was our hard charger earlier on in the race. And it looks like Fellenbaum, that's going to make his 13th pass here tonight. Once again, back up inside the top 10. "22 laps left to go. Robinson still has Hill and Moore shadowing him behind. Looks like relatively clean track ahead for the number 23 machine, so lap traffic is not going to be a factor for a little while longer here. There is Ken Huff in the 46 machine. Trying to get a lap back here, run the high line, try not to interject himself into the top three party. Now Robinson's been able to pull away about a half second. Now watch this, Robinson, I thought was, yeah, there we go. Immediately tucks in behind the 46 of Huff to try and get a little bit of a draft advantage. He wants to shake off Dan Hill and Lloyd Moore running second and third. Hill might still be in the draft here. It's going to be close. He's about a half second off the tail end of Robinson. And Robinson starting to get a breakaway here. 6/10 to his advantage. Things are still exciting just inside the top five, though. Robert Garisco, he's got company from Jerry Isaacs, that number 51. Garisco and Isaacs, they're about 5.2 seconds back from their race leader, Josh Robinson. And they are showing about a half second a lap slower than the race leader. Robinson, that 23, is extremely good when it comes to tire management and is hard to touch when the race goes his way. Behind these two battling for fifth, Garisco and Isaacs, you've also got McDaniel and Andy Thomas having a race. McDaniel trying to hold on to the 7th place position. He's got Thomas in very hot pursuit. And it looks like Bob Fellenbaum is joining the photo here. Fellenbaum up 14 spots. Sean Foltz, though, still our hard charger. He's up 17. Fellenbaum making moves here. That's going to be his 15-spot gain. This one against Andy Thomas. He's got his head forward against Greg McDaniel, looking to slide a little bit further up inside the top 10 here. Your top three is still Robinson, Hill, Moore, 1, 2, 3. Foltz and Garisco round out the top 5. Fellenbaum tucked in behind McDaniel, that Cartoon Network back number 1 machine. And Fellenbaum keep it underneath him there, that 38 machine. Fellenbaum has been extremely fast at the tail end of long runs. And I think McDaniel was hard on the throttle earlier on. And that might have led to a little bit of premature tire wear for McDaniel. Let's see Fellenbaum working the outside line here. Trying to carry a little bit more speed out of turn 2. It's going to be a drag race. Fellenbaum showing up by just about a 10th here. Fellenbaum gets cleared, works his way up into 7th. And that will be the 16th spot gain for that 38. Now he's about 1.5 seconds back from Jerry Isaacs with 11 to go. I'll be curious to see if Fellenbaum can somehow catch up to Isaacs. Because Isaacs is involved in his own battle with Robert Garisco on camera there. Garisco is up 8 spots, holding on to a top 5. Oh, we get ready to make it 10 laps left to go as your race leader, Josh Robinson, crosses the line. Robinson's built up a 1.2 second advantage over Hill. Hill still has Lloyd Moore right behind him. Garisco and Isaacs hinting at some side-by-side action here. Isaacs down low, Garisco up against the wall, trying to carry as much corner speed as he can. Favor definitely goes to Garisco out of turn 2 there, pulling about a 2/10 margin over Isaacs. Garisco gets clear, leaves Isaacs behind. Panning back up to Dan Hill. Still has Lloyd Moore breathing down his neck. So as Robinson has pulled a 1.5 advantage over the rest of the field, 8 laps left to go. This could just be a battle for second, barring any late race cautions. We've only had 1 yellow flag so far here this evening. And it has predominantly been the Josh Robinson show, but now we're watching to see what Hill and Moore can do here at Charlotte, the only long format race we have on the schedule. Hill holding on to it here. Now, we got a report. We talked about Fellenbaum if he had the pace, and it seems like yes is the answer, as he has moved that 38 machine all the way up to 6th. Fellenbaum and Foltz. Fellenbaum in 6th, Foltz in 4th. Both drivers matching for a hard charger of the night, up 17 positions. So Fellenbaum making big moves here. Isaacs has fallen back to, looks to be 8th now. And Fellenbaum looking to make it 18 spots gained with 4 to go. He's within 0.8 of a second of Robert Garisco. So this is going to be good here. The laps are closing, 3 to go. Fellenbaum charging for that hard charger reward, and Dan Hill has started to caught up to Josh Robinson. He's within a half second of the race leader. Does Hill have something left in the tank here? We had an off track with Chris Bates. Thankfully, no caution will be thrown here. But there we go. There's your race leader, Josh Robinson. There is Dan Hill right behind, as well as Lloyd Moore. 2 laps left to go here at Charlotte. Hill not quite 500s, 400s of a second faster than Robinson last time by. If Hill has anything left in reserve, now is his time to shine. We unfurl the white flag at the start-finish line here at Charlotte. Final lap for Josh Robinson. For the final time, Josh Robinson out of turn 2 down the backstretch here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. He's still got Dan Hill in second. Lloyd Moore holding on to a podium here tonight. And put your hands together. Josh Robinson picks up the win here, the YesterYear Racing Cup Series. Dan Hill gets second, and Lloyd Moore will round out the top 3. We're going to get these drivers on to start-finish line for their victory photos. And then we'll grab them up here to the waiting room for their interviews. A great job by these 3. A great showing across the board. And Josh Robinson's going to burn it down here at Charlotte. A very well-deserved victory burnout. And Robinson, a great win here at Charlotte. Looks like we're starting to get drivers up here to victory lane. We are waiting on Robinson, Hill, and Moore to make their way to the top 3. It looks like we've got Hill, so we're waiting on Moore and Robinson to join us. We're trying to get these top 3 drivers all wrangled up here. There we go. Looks like we're starting to get the party started. So we're going to start things off with Mr. Lloyd Moore, the number 26. Lloyd, your second podium of the season. It's been a minute, but man, good to have you back up here.
Hey, it's good to be here.
Now, Lloyd, it seemed like it was a tire management race here tonight with one caution to throw a wrench in the plans. Were you grateful, or were you wishing that caution did not come out here?
I would have liked to have that caution come out about 10 laps later after everybody pitted and I was still out there, because I went 60, I think 7 to 8 laps on the first set, and was planning on extending it a little bit in that way, about a 45 lap run on fresh tires, see if I could run everybody down.
Now, I was going to say, it definitely was a tire management game here tonight. Were you surprised to see the long green flag runs at Charlotte, or was this kind of expected for you?
With this group, I figured we'd get some long runs in there. So when I was out in practice, I did a full fuel run, 68 laps, just to see how everything would react. And honestly, my first run in the whole practice, I didn't downshift at all. And then the second run, about 30 laps in, halfway through the run, I was downshifting and stuff, and that was what was able to let me stay with Dan and Josh here at the end.
Well, super cool to see the different strategies play out. You guys put on a great show Memorial Day weekend. And Lloyd, before I let you sign off and celebrate and unwind from this one, who do you want to give a shout out to that helped make it happen?
Well, I'm gonna go a little somber this week. It's Memorial Day tomorrow. Tomorrow's my 49th birthday. I'm gonna lean towards where I spent my military career. I was in the 82nd Airborne Division, part of the 2nd and the 504th Parachute Infantry Regiment. And the reason that I went there was because of the Green Ramp disaster at Pope Air Force Base in 1994. That unit lost a lot of soldiers in that. There were 22 people killed, and that was the reason I was assigned to the 2nd and the 504. That means a lot to me. I felt like I wanted to get a podium. Love to have had a win tonight, but I was racing for those guys. The memory of those guys. A lot of guys I served with, lost a lot of good friends, people I didn't know, but the guys that make the ultimate sacrifice. That's what Memorial Day is about. Told my kids, we don't celebrate me tomorrow. We celebrate the people we've lost in the fight for our freedom. So I'm doing that for them today.
Well said, Lloyd, all the way, and good to have you up here, sir.
Yes, sir. Good to be back, James.
That was Lloyd Moore. Join us in the 3rd place spot. Up next, we've got Dan Trashcan Hill join us in the 2nd place spot. Dan, welcome back to the top part of the field, man. Good to have you.
Oh, I'm glad to be back. That was a pretty fun race.
It seemed like a blast. I mean, the tire management you had dialed in, it looked like some of the best tire wear planning I'd seen from you in quite a while, and it seemed like the longer the run went, the better and better you were crawling up that leaderboard.
Yeah, it's kind of unusual for me. I'm not normally good at these cookie cutters, and I usually because I struggle with tire wear, and for some reason I have something figured out here at Charlotte, because last time we were here too, I ran down the leaders late in that race too, and I was really surprised. I was really surprised that I was catching Josh on the first run, and then the second run I think I definitely was pushing a little bit harder than he was having to, because he had such a better pit stop than me, and it would have been interesting to see what would have happened on a 3rd and final stint if we'd both pitted at the same time. I'd be curious to see where it would have ended up.
Now, with that thought in mind, did that caution help you? Did it hurt you, or was it just kind of a blank slate for that final run?
I mean, it helped. I mean, the fact that TJ and McDaniel got caught back. Those guys were running really, really fast times. That kind of, that just, okay, that's one less person I was going to have to worry about passing, because, every time I would pit, I'd have to go back through them, and those guys were fast, and so was Wayne tonight. And, so it's kind of nice when you get a caution and you get rid of some of your competition. Not to, I feel bad for them, but it is what it is. It's, it helps me out, and I was fortunate. So, but, I was really surprised. Lloyd really showed a lot of speed there on the long run too, there at the end. And and I wasn't expecting that out of him because I hadn't seen that earlier on in the race.
Yeah, great racing all the way around. Tire management, you guys put on a phenomenal show. Kept it exciting all the way till the end, and super cool to have you back up here in second. And Dan, before I let you go and unwind on this weekend, who do you want to give a shout to that helps put you up into second?
Well, first and foremost, I want to remember that all gave some, some gave all, and Memorial Day is always about remembering the sacrifices of the people that came before us. And secondly, I also like to shout out to Eddie Jones. That's great to see him back. OBRL is like a big family here. We all really care a lot about each other on and off the track, and it's good to see him back with his health and everything. And then obviously a shout out as always to my teammates, Josh, Tom, Brian, John Hinchcliffe, all those guys, and then you for what you do at the broadcast booth, and Victor for owning a phenomenal league and putting a good group of admins together. So thanks.
Well, thank you, Dan. Always a pleasure, buddy, and hopefully we'll have you back up here next week.
I hope so too. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. That was Dan Hill bringing it home in second. Up next, the man, the myth, the legend, Josh Robinson, the Micro Center back number 23 Ford. Welcome back to the top spot here at the OBRL.
Thanks, James. How you doing tonight?
Good, man. It seems like every time you get a good breakaway, somebody causes a caution just to keep you on your toes a little bit.
That can happen. It's going to happen. But I think when that one caution fell, that was right about the time my right front was it was leaving the car. So I didn't exactly hate seeing that.
Now, I was going to say, yeah, it was right about the time you were going to come in pit road. If you stayed on the same strategy, I think it was a whopping 2 or 3 laps earlier, and it kept you on the lead lap. But were you expecting a caution at all by the time we hit the 2/3 mark, or were you thinking we're going to run this thing green?
So I don't know if anybody else talked about it, but the pit exit here, there's a bump as you enter turn 1 on the apron, and then on the back stretch, it's like a whoop section. So if someone's just on the throttle just a hair too early, it's a really easy thing to loop off when you're trying to exit the pit. So not too surprised. All these guys here are good drivers, so it's a little surprising that someone here would do it. But yeah, it is a tough. You're trying to get everything you can to gain a spot and not lose it on exit there.
I don't know if anybody told you it was 2 drivers hit those bumps out of turn 1, and yes, I was aware of it because I listened to the drivers meeting. That was something to discuss. But yeah, 2 drivers getting tied up in that one and brought out the caution very, very late. It was interesting to see. I was expecting car-to-car contact, especially as you guys were all out on track. We had different tire strategies. We had different drivers on the lead lap, some trying to unlap themselves. I thought that was personally going to be the vortex of danger. So a bit of a surprise to see that late in the race, I think.
Yeah, I ran one of the 600s. A couple of us did yesterday, and the quality of driver here versus the quality of drivers in the officials it's not even comparable. The racing here is so clean.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I mean, you guys put on a great show. Only 1 caution, 180 laps. What more can you ask for at Charlotte besides having that number 23 back on top? And Josh, it's always a pleasure, buddy. And you get the final send-offs of the night. Who do you want to give a shout to that helped make it happen?
I want to thank everybody over at Team Miata, even though Tom couldn't make it out tonight because we only allowed A-class drivers in.
Yep.
And then shout out to you guys for doing the broadcast, and as always, all the admins and Victor and team for keeping the OBRL rolling.
Awesome. Josh, always a pleasure, buddy. Good to have you back in the top spot, and hopefully we'll have you here next week as well.
Appreciate it, James. We'll see you later.
Thank you, sir. That was Josh Robinson bringing it home in the top spot. He was accompanied by Dan Hill in second and Lloyd Moore rounding out the top 3. On behalf of the oldbastardsracing.com, my name has been James East with Team Goon Squad Broadcasting. Thank you all so much for spending your Sunday night with us. Have a fantastic holiday weekend, and we'll see you at the next one. Have a great night, everybody.